All right, so we're at my grandparents' house and we're gonna pick up this fine Pontiac Torrent, take it home and see what's wrong with it. All right, so some of what I've noticed so far, we've got a brake light and a check engine light. It feels like the brakes are hung up, the rear brakes. When I let off the gas, it really tries to slow down. And this sets more than it gets used, which is never good for anything. So we've got a failure on the powertrain control module, a failure on the body control module, fuel trim system lean, evaporative emissions, vent system performance, and we have cooling fan relay. Then there's a whole bunch, like every single code possible for the body control module. So I don't know if that's my scan tool causing a communication error or if there's like a ground somewhere. We're gonna have to get to the bottom of that as well. This is a little bit concerning. There's a lot of evidence of something living in here. Well, it's been sitting for a long time. So all those body control module codes. Oh, look, check it out over here. We've got a bunch of walnuts stored in the fender. I bet you somewhere in this harness, a squirrel or something has chewed through. This is gonna be a lengthy inspection. Let's check, oh, you got more walnuts there. Let's check the air box real quick and see if it's full. Okay, so nothing's chewed through the air filter yet. They've chewed back there. I bet we have some serious squirrel and or mouse damage. So with all these codes, tons of body control module codes, plus we powertrain codes, a couple cooling fan circuit codes. Thought originally, like I said, that it was most likely my scan tool communicating with the body control module and there's some kind of error, maybe it needs an update, until I opened the hood and I saw all these black walnuts. So right now I'm just trying to go through to see if I can find some wires chewed. I don't want to get too lost in any one direction. And I don't really want to start to address the system lean and stuff until I can be sure that the harness isn't chewed somewhere. It's kind of what I'm doing now is trying to think it through and decide which direction to head. They may not have chewed through anything, but I've had a run in with squirrels and mice and stuff before, and they definitely chew. They chew, 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 chew. I'm not trying to gain access necessarily to anything specific, but there's so many failures and just this evidence, all these nuts. That might be poop, I don't know. I can't help but think that a harness is chewed up. Dang squirrels, black walnuts, man. Okay, while I was looking for wires chewed, I also found this. So this isn't all the way on the bottom. I don't know if you can see it or not, but that's an issue. I'm gonna try and find something that's about that diameter to stick in there, and we'll put the heat gun on it in a little while and see if we can get a little bit of shade back to this. So here's what I've come up with. Let's get this around here. Maybe. That clamp is pretty crummy. We should probably spray it with some PB Blaster if only we had some handy. Okay, so we're just going to do that for now and set it aside while we're working on everything else. And then I'll try and heat this with the heat gun and see if we can get some shape back to it. Okay, and we've discovered this. We have this issue. Oh, it's not squeaking now. So there's that one. Now this fan, it doesn't even spin. The bearings are bad in it. Can you hear that? That's the noise we get when we try to rotate the fan. I made sure there's no walnuts in the bottom of it. These should rotate freely. So yeah, that's no good. All right, so I was gonna remove that ground. And of course, the stud ripped right off the body. So we gotta get this apart now. So I think what we're gonna try and do is heat this nut a little bit without burning the wire and see if it'll come off. We can't heat it too much or we'll lose the solder that's inside the wire itself. Okay, the heat was enough to do it. Okay guys, so I started thinking, I halfway put that back together because I still have to pull the fans out because the fans are shot. So we had that code for lean and evaporative emissions. Now, the evaporative emissions, I believe, is hose on the rear valve cover that wasn't pushed in all the way. And also, this being all wadded up on the bottom side, your mass airflow sensor's right here. So on metered air entering the engine from this thing being wadded up like it was would certainly cause that lean condition or that lean code. I never did find any wires chewed up. I looked and looked and looked. So I've fit this back together, putting it around that can with the clamp. It got its memory back and it fit on nicely all the way around. There's no more air leak there. So I think we will run it and watch the data, see if we get any emissions code back, our lean code, the brake light. I think the brakes is just rust. It was like a little bit low on brake fluid, but I couldn't find a leak anywhere. The pads look fine. So we're gonna put some miles on it and see if we get any of those codes back. We also have to replace the fans. We've got to remove this radiator hose and unhook the fans and unbolt the fans, and then we have to pull them up. So it will come out, I believe, past the APR tube. Getting the new ones in here, a little bit more of a chore, but let's see. There we go. Okay, so here's why we're taking them out. So that one doesn't sound so great. This one doesn't move at all. Not like it's supposed to. We've got our new cooling fans here. We'll get these out, maybe, for fun. Let's see here. Remember how the other ones were? That's how it's supposed to be. There's the good ones. We're gonna see if we can fish these back down in here. Hopefully it did come out. So I think with enough maneuvering, we can get them back in. We're gonna go through a couple warm-up cycles, make sure all of our we don't have any pending codes coming back up. Okay guys, so we let it run outside for a little bit, trying to bleed out the cooling system. We still have a little bit of that to do. Unfortunately, we got a code right away for the fan circuit. So we have P0481, cooling fan relay 2 and 3 control circuit. Last test it failed. Current, this ignition failed. Since cleared, failed. So that kind of happened right away. One easy thing that I'm going to do before I go any further into it is I will swap the 2 cooling fan relays with 2 of the other relays. I'll do the power window and the rear defog. I wonder if maybe because those fans were originally, one of them was and wouldn't turn at all, that created an issue with the relay. So here's the plan. We'll swap. Our rear defog is this one, and our low cooling fan is this one. I don't have real high hopes that this is going to work, but it's so easy that I have to try it. So we've got those swapped. Now let's go back. So this is weird too. We got 72 body control module codes. I gotta believe it's a problem with my scan tool, although I just updated it. We're going to jump in, we'll cycle the key and see what our data says about the cooling fan circuit. This is over here working on the Kia. Say hi, Alex.
Yo!
That thing's about finished. He's just doing the final detail. It cleaned up really nice. He spent a while doing it here, so it's a pretty nice vehicle. He's doing the outside of the windows now. Engine. Last test failed. Current, this ignition failed. Since cleared, failed. Clear trouble code. Look at that, came right back. There's definitely a problem there. That's fishy. So we're gonna have to back up and punt here a little bit. Okay, so we gotta move on with what we know. We have 72 body control module codes. Still unsure what that's about because I couldn't find any evidence where the squirrels or mice had chewed through the wiring. So we're gonna back up. Let's double check ourselves and make sure that this relay center, that none of the pins on the bottom got bent or anything, especially in, it would be this right hand one over here. All right, check this out. I just happened to be looking under the dash and I found this too. Now they've chewed their way through the foam there and started storing walnuts here. So they were definitely living in this thing while it was parked. That's the downside to leaving something sit around and not get used. One of the downsides. I don't see anything that looks like wires yet. Like just a little bit of evidence. Well, we gotta keep moving forward. We're gonna have to shift gears a little bit. I don't see anything down here yet. We better get the vacuum and get all this moved out of here. Okay, so we pulled the fender well out to get access to that relay for the fans, and we found a lot more walnuts here. Piles and piles. They have chewed through the foam. You can see where they're digging up through there. Probably in the top of the fender as well. There are walnuts everywhere. All right, so here's where we're at. I've been messing with this thing and trying to figure out why there's a fan circuit malfunction. I used the X tool a whole bunch of times to command the fans on and off, and I was sitting here in the chair while I was doing it, and I noticed that the high speed didn't sound any different from the low speed, and I realized that I went against one of the most important rules. So let's check the fuses and see what we got. So this is the high speed fuse here. You like my fuse pullers? And voila, what a pain in the butt. Can you guys see it? It's burnt inside there. It's burnt right through. So although I was able to get some of the walnuts cleaned out of it onto the floor, what happened? No, mistakes were made. You should always go to the fuse first. A lot of times I find myself not going to the fuse because it's like never the fuse. And the one time I don't check it, that's when there's an issue with the fuse. As you can see, this is the high-speed fuse and it's blown. Okay, so we've got our new fuse installed after last night's mistake. And now I'm going to cycle the high-speed fan. So here's our low-speed fan. Let me bring it up. There's our low speed. Off. Now let's do our high speed. This should sound considerably different. There we go. So now we got the high speed fan working. I think it's time to get it outside, let it warm up, make sure our coolant's topped off, and do some run and drive cycles.
Seems to be doing good. The temp's not up to half yet. It's like a little bit above quarter, which I'm sure that's this vehicle's operating temp. We try to put out like 2 videos a week on Sunday, and we'll put out a video on Wednesday, and sometimes we'll put out a tool review. Yeah, check our other videos out. We got some interesting stuff, man. Well, I'd say that about wraps it up for my test drive. Let's see what Jim thinks.
All right, that concludes the 2006 Pontiac Torrent. Remember, always check the fuse. Ran it through some warm-up cycles, some drive cycles, and everything's okay. So we're gonna return it to my grandmother and pick up their 2010, I believe, Chevy Silverado, because they got a bunch of lights on there too. It's a beautiful snowy day out here. So hey, thanks for watching.